listening to the Rugby Coaches Corner podcast with your host, Andy Plimer. Bringing you up-to-date coaching concepts from the world of rugby. Sharing ideas to make the game better.
Welcome to episode 97 of the Rugby Coaches Corner podcast. I'm your host, Andy Plimer, and joining me today is Katie Hunter. Katie resides in New Brunswick, Canada, and coaches her U19 New Brunswick Provincial team, as well as being the president of her home club, the St. John Irish. She is passionate about bringing free development opportunities to women in the province by way of official training, athletic sessions, nutrition education, level 1 and 2 certification, and more. She's also a teacher, a referee, and is still fitting some playing in there as well. It's a pleasure to have her on the show. So welcome, Katie.
Thank you very much. I don't try to play. I'm thrown on the field.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've been there, and that's that happens for sure. Katie was also one of the first people to correct me on the pronunciation of St. John. It's not St. John's, as I was corrected when I was in New Brunswick, which is the capital of Newfoundland. It's St. John.
I'm glad I could share that with you.
Yeah,
yeah.
Key point. Cool. So, how did you get into rugby? How did it start, and what got you hooked?
So for New Brunswick, rugby is, it's far different, the landscape right now. But when I was in high school, so 15 plus years ago, that was new. So you would go into grade 9 and that was an option for you to play, but it wouldn't have ever been a sport that would have been available to you before.
Right.
So my first introduction would have been in grade 9, and I had an older brother who had played in high school as well. So that was my introduction to rugby. And I come from a super athletic family. Like if I look at my own accolades versus like everyone else, I'm like the black sheep. Like they're just like amazing athletes. And then, I'm still like trudging along. So I did a lot of contact. I was in martial arts when I was younger. So the whole tackling, it came really, really, really quickly, and I was really excited for it. So I was one of the younger girls. So I started in grade 9, and probably was only me and 2 other grade 9 students. So our high school was grade 9 to 12. And I kind of just dove in. And it was just, I remember my first scrum at Rugby Fest. I was playing hook, and my head was above the scrum, and I was just looking at everyone else around me, like not bound in at all. Oh my gosh, what a mess. But yeah, so that was kind of my start. And it like for girls, there aren't many opportunities to use your body in that way.
Yeah.
Use your body to like create space or to like push the gain line. There's all these really interesting ways that you can be super physical. And I had that with martial arts, but not in a team format. And that, like, I was hooked. That was it. I loved it.
Yeah, I think that's a key point, especially here in Canada where rugby is played in the summer, apart from BC. But they'll come over at some stage, surely. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. There is no opportunities for a contact sport for girls and women in a summer sport. There's hockey, of course, in the winter.
But that's not
to a level. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's no full contact team sport, and I think rugby plays a massive part in the landscape in countries where it's not a major sport, especially for girls and women.
Mm-hmm. And some of like the most confident girls I've seen as a coach with that contact piece are those who have done martial arts. Like we have kind of a flow into our high school program from a judo club. And those girls, it's just so fast. It's so second nature. They know how to use their weight. They know how to put their shoulder into someone. Like it really is like an understanding of your body that girls don't have the opportunity to do as much. And that's probably why they shy away from it in our sports growing, but, not as fast as I would like to see it go.
Yeah. And we'll definitely touch on that later in the interview for sure. And what about coaching? What was it kind of like how your playing career is going now? People just kind of pushing you onto the field and say, oh, we need that done over there. Is that how you started?
Oh God. Coaching. So when I left high school and started university, I became a personal trainer. So then I kind of was thrown back into my own high school, coach and be that like assistant coach that does like fitness and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like does, that silly stuff. But I don't know. A professor told me once, like you spend your first 2 or 3 years teaching, figuring out like what teaching is, and then the rest of your career buying back your soul because you were so terrible for those first 3 years. Like I feel the exact same way about coaching. Like I was like throwing like stupid, like let's do 10 sit-ups for this, ridiculous. It has nothing to do with the sport. It's like punitive in a way.
Yeah.
So that, that's how I started. Things have luckily gotten better for sure. I now see it a little bit differently, but that's how I got started. I actually went back to my own high school and then went to a totally different high school and was the head coach. And then I moved overseas when I finished my teaching degree, and I started a club in Bangkok.
All right, cool.
Yeah. So I kind of coached there too, and I coached a high school in Bangkok as well.
Amazing.
Well, it's kind of been a wild ride.
Well, there's a good history of martial arts in Thailand, so you would have had some good contenders for rugby players.
Oh, yeah. Well, we were an expat team, so we mostly had like foreigners to the country. But I did have the opportunity to play the national sevens team. And we were their warm up to their practice, our game. Oh yeah. I think the score was like 105 to maybe 10.
Oh, good. You got over the line a couple of times, or they got over the line a couple of times.
You got over the line. Just
Cool. Classic. All right, cool. And what about the history of St. John Irish women's team? That's it's quite interesting the way the team has become a standalone club and very unique in the rugby landscape in North America. Can you tell us a little bit of the history of the club and where it's at now?
Yeah. So I joined the club when I was still in high school. So I always say that like I was driven to practice when I began because I couldn't drive myself. So it's been quite a long time. So it was a men's club to begin with. And then for all the reasons that men want the women to be added, social reasons and all that kind of stuff. So then there was like a social women's side for a really, really long time. And probably not the most competitive side. Yeah. Probably more just there to have fun. And at that time what would that be? That would be like 2004, 2005. Like that was kind of normal. Like there were teams in New Brunswick, obviously, but I think the women's side was kind of an afterthought for sure. But I would say we've been becoming more and more competitive, obviously, as time goes on, and rugby in general is taken seriously, and it's more of a sport that draws like really great athletes. And before it was kind of seen as like a social experiment, like yeah. So actually in 2013, I think our men's side kind of floated away and disappeared. So for a long time we had the men's side, and we got their old jerseys.
That's kind of them.
Yeah, we got all that kind of stuff. Those really thick barbarian jerseys. We would get all like the hand-me-downs. But in 2013, we turned into our own unit.
That's amazing.
So, and that's I think when the focus started to change, and it really, it was keeping our head above water for a really long time and learning a lot of different things. Like as the president of the club, I now know how to pay employees. Like I'm a teacher. I had no idea how to do it. Right. Like you just had to really pick up the slack. And I think we're better for it, to be totally honest.
Yeah. And I think, one of the reasons I got you on the show was to talk about this. You posted on Facebook a little while ago on your private Facebook page that, there are 2 women's teams in St. John, which is, not a huge city, and that you fielded 2 full teams against each other for the first time in quite a while. What's that represent in terms of the amount of work behind the scenes and the type of mentorship that's taken place to build those 2 teams?
Yeah. So in New Brunswick, for the senior women's side, we don't have a huge amount of teams. We have 4 main teams, and we have one team that's like starting to develop and come into our league. So having 2 teams in one city means major competition, obviously, because we compete for players, we compete for coaching in high schools, we compete for all these things. And for some people see it as a negative, like, oh, you have to split all your talent. Like, you're not putting the absolute best 15 on, you're putting like half and half and da-da-da. Yeah. I see it as a positive. I think that our women's programs, both the St. John Trojans and St. John Irish, because we're both obviously in St. John, I think we're better for it. And I think we are all more this is terrible, but dedicated in a way, because we have to like offer quite a bit, like a really appetizing women's program. We have to be in the high schools, like doing the absolute best we can as high school coaches to like bring them to our team. We have to be putting in that effort to develop our rookie rugby programs and put in the time that way. So I feel like the 2 teams in one city, although challenging, I think it's going to make for better rugby overall. So we also have like the juggernaut, which is like Fredericton, which is our capital city, which is like a big team to beat. They just have a really big club. They have their own clubhouse, 2 fields, all the trappings of something quite beautiful. They also have 2 universities in that city that have teams. So that they have quite a lot. And if you look at them versus us, like, I would see why someone would say, like, why don't you just join together and like be big guys? But I guess I just don't care about that. I just see it in a totally different light. That's not my goal. We have a brand new team coming into the league, and like, who did they reach out to? They would reach out to like the people in St. John, because we're smaller clubs who are starting to grow. We're like, success stories in a way. And I know of another team that's now interested in it. I can't say a name, but another team that's entering into the league, hopefully, right? Oh, so I think we are going to see, like, not defectors by any means, but I think we are going to see teams growing out of places where we didn't expect them geographically to come from, because the sport is growing and it needs to serve people better. Yeah, that's amazing. And yeah, that last bit, that's what we're doing as coaches, is we're serving our players, and as administrators in a club, you're serving the club members. And I think, I love winning championships. I love winning cups and things like that, but it's not the only thing about rugby. Like, rugby is so much more than that. I look at, I met my wife through my rugby club. We got married on the rugby field. All my kids play rugby. I would say 90% of my friends are connected to rugby somehow. So yeah, it's not just, are you the dominant team or not? It's, are you providing that for your members and your players to give them that social aspect to it as well. Yeah, it's more important to be competitive than winning. Like, we did get our asses handed to us this season, I'm not going to lie, for a game against Fredericton. However, like, it's just not my focus. Like, we're competitive with everyone else. The athletes we put on the field are getting better. We even had, like, new to the sport athletes here. Like, awesome. COVID was a bit of a weird year. We have a lot of, like, brand new players, like, in the senior side too, not even in the high school's end. So yeah, it's constant. I have no idea what's coming next. It's constantly changing. Cool. That's exciting. And what about the general landscape
of rugby in New Brunswick for girls? What's that look like? Is it still entry point is grade 9, or now with rookie rugby that's obviously starting to happen earlier? What's that look like for someone who's not familiar?
Yeah, so our middle school aged girls they don't have rugby in school.
Right.
And I think I feel I could be totally wrong, but I actually think that was a decision made about insurance and that was kind of a decision for school. So we do have rookie rugby programs in like the big cities like St. John, Fredericton, Moncton. There are other like smaller ones in northern New Brunswick. I feel like I'm not doing them justice by not knowing which programs, but so it's definitely more available. Is it being used to its fullest capacity? I would say no. Like it's still, I believe Fredericton, they had about 100 rookie rugby kids. That's boys and girls. St. John Trojans probably had similar to us, like 40 in each program. And I'm not entirely sure about Moncton. So if you look at like kids sports as a whole, that's pretty low numbers. Like if you especially compared to something like soccer. Or and soccer would be similar in price. I know that's always on the mind of parents. So in terms of girls rugby, I would say that grade 9 is still the entry point. Yeah. And typically from from my perspective, or at least at my high school, and I'm at a pretty big high school, it's pretty hard to get grade 9s out. That's a big year for them, like to transition and then to also start a brand new sport. There's a lot of bravado necessary to do that. So yeah, we're looking at like grade 10, 11, 12 as an entry point for sure.
Yeah. Right. And, back to Facebook, you posted something earlier today as well, just about having girls tackling for the first time and what their experiences are around that and how challenging, I suppose, that can be for coaching, but also how exciting that can be to give them that, help them achieve that first experience. What would be your advice to coaches who are coaching a girls team for the first time, with a lot of the girls in that team haven't actually done any body contact sport or tackling of any kind? What would be your feedback there?
Yeah. So I think it's just such a beautiful thing. Honestly, that post, seeing the comments from the girls, I'm like getting teary, like just remembering it.
So how did you get those comments? Could you just explain that first of all?
Well, I'm crazy about social media and teams. Like I will post something after a practice and I expect conversation, like one of those professors who just I get a point if you get, So that's what I expect. I want talk. So I did. So our contact this year was outside of schools because of COVID. So, so we only had 3 jamboree tackle days. So the practices leading up to that were sort of optional outside of my school team, which was only touch rugby. So in order just to prime the new girls who thought mostly they were signing up for touch rugby, just prime them for their first tackle practice, I just said share what it was like kind of open-ended. And it was interesting because if I were to give something more specific, tell them that how the coach coaches, or tell them what the technique is like, or how they should prepare, I think it would have changed their answers. Just being super broad, being what was your experience like? They all went to a really emotional place. They immediately thought said about empowerment, or feeling strong, or feeling capable, or how excited it made them feel. I think, and I've listened to a lot of your podcasts lately, I'm a keener, I did my homework, and there's a lot of that
plus one.
Yeah, there's a point, right?
Yeah.
A lot of that empathy piece that's starting to seep its way into coaching, and especially with rugby. And I think with girls, it's just not that it's even more important, it's just more clear. It's more out in the open that they do really need that sense of accomplishment and success. And yes, you can do this, and believing in both themselves, and you need to act like you believe in them, even if you're a bit scared to have them on the field for their first game. They need that in order to be successful. So that post today with screenshots of their comments, it just kind of reminded me again of like how profound like a tackle practice is, especially the first one.
Yeah.
A lot of those girls have never used their body that way ever, and have often been discouraged to use their body in a way to like move someone else or to accomplish a goal or whatever. So yeah, I'm so it's hard. We coach tackling in a gym.
Yeah, that's not fun.
No. So we really have to have buy-in.
Yeah, no, that's great, and I've shared that on the podcast's Facebook page as well. So listeners, if they want to go and have a look at it, but I found it really interesting, exactly from the points you're saying there, is that a lot of it was there was no technical talk in that piece. It was all psychological and self-worth and self-concept and self-efficacy, and those kind of things were really coming out in that. So I think that from a coaching standpoint, obviously creating a safe environment for it physically, that we're building them up to those contact pieces slowly and over several sessions is really important. But then, it's that support and, like you said, the empathy is so key.
Mm-hmm. I've always thought there was such room for some sort of Canadian coach to do like a how to coach tackling in a gym. Like if there's anyone out there who really wants to take that on and create a whole program for tackling in a gym, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, that was one of the first things I know. I've been here 14 years now, and that was one of the first things I was like, oh, this is weird. Practicing in a full-size basketball gym, if you're lucky to get a full-size basketball gym, in February is very weird, but also challenging as a coach, because you have to be creative and manage the space and manage the numbers and all those kind of things.
And have access to equipment. Right.
Yeah.
That too. Like, what's your school willing to offer? Do they have a wrestling program? Because wrestling mats are great, and so
yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, that's really cool, and I think raising good points there, and I selfishly, I'm kind of arming myself for coaching my daughter. I already coach her now, but when she gets to high school, she's in grade 5 right now. I really want to be coaching her school rugby team, and it'll probably be me who starts up that team because there wouldn't be an existing one in grade 7. And I think we really need to be aware of that in countries where there's not a lot of girls playing sport or rugby in particular. Is I think we rush into having them join contact, and I think we feel that this is what rugby looks like, and this is by this age they should be doing this. And if they're not, well, bad luck. And I worry big time that we'll lose girls from the sport if we jump into these things too early. So my daughter's 11. She should have been doing contact this year. She was very excited to tackle, but she also didn't want to be tackled herself. She's also in co-ed, which we talked about before the pod, that she's playing against boys, and some of these boys are, they're already prepubescent. They've shot up. They're twice her body weight in some cases, and I feel there needs to be a lot of exploration in that age grade, because if she gets into a situation 2 or 3 times, she'll pull away from the sport, and we can't lose people.
I think middle school, like in an education world too, is the most nobody understands kids at that age. Like grade 6, 7, 8, even 9, nobody even understands. Like they're just hard to manage, and they're going through really weird social times and understanding themselves and their own self-worth and all of those things. And then I don't think it's the greatest age to have co-ed sports. I just don't. I think if you're going to learn how to tackle, based on what I've seen at the high school level, where they're a bit more confident, they're more apt to do it in a really like safe social context. Like no mean girl stuff, and no like I don't want to hit him, or I'll look too strong. Like in terms of the social hierarchy of middle school, that, I don't know. There's just a lot there, and I totally agree with you. It's okay for us to change if it's for the better of our players. Like we don't have to continue doing the same thing just because rugby is a tackle sport. or just because like I know Becky, our head coach, her and I had a really great conversation about canceling a practice because of the rain. And I was like, well, we can't cancel practice because it's raining. Like, it's rugby. And she was like, I'm sick of it. For all the things we've changed, that's another one we're going to change. Okay. We're canceling freezing cold out. I don't know, just something simple like that. But we can why not do it differently? If it's better for the service of our athletes, why not? And
especially in a country like Canada where, we lose one doesn't mean we're going to replace that girl with another 2 or 1 even. Right. We lose one, we have 0 that we've added to the mix. Exactly. Yeah.
And we compete a lot with sports that have been around for a long time. And that includes hockey, and that includes in high school we compete with volleyball because they're like happening simultaneously. Yeah. So it's always like the fight for the best athletes, unfortunately. And in the summer we lose them to soccer. Yeah. So yeah, it is a bit of a competition. So we do have to make really smart choices for sure.
Yeah, I agree. All right, cool. You mentioned earlier you are the president of St. John Irish. What have you learnt from that role, especially in terms of managing up and managing down? I think that's a really undervalued skill for coaches. I know that historically I haven't been great at it at certain times, and then other times I've been really good at it. And I think it's just one of those areas that you can learn the wrong way and then course correct. But what have you learned from your time as being in admin and that kind of area?
Well, I'm so lucky not to have been taught anything badly because I wasn't taught at all. I was sort of just, oh, you're keen. Off you go.
You showed weakness. You showed that you're enthusiastic.
Nobody, it was either fixtures or president. I just had to choose. It's been a learning on the job opportunity. Before becoming the president, I had actually been pretty involved with the NBRU, just going to like general meetings, and like I'm on the disciplinary committee as well for the province. So I've kind of been around other people that have held this role, but not in my own club, obviously. So, and there were female presidents before me. I wasn't the only first female president. We had others. Even when we had the men's team, we had other female presidents. But the last president that we had actually told me, she's like, Katie, you want to take this club where I just don't care. Like, I just don't want to do that amount of development. And I was like, all right, I do. See you later. Yeah. Like, I want to offer development for athletes. Let's become referees. Like, how can we better help our community? Like, are we doing outreach enough? And and like potentially just spread myself too thin in the beginning. And now like just becoming more of an adult, like in my 30s, I'm starting to understand, no. Like, you have to have a focus. You have to put your energy somewhere and make sure that you're getting, good payout from that energy. So it's been, I think I'm in, because no one else has taken it from me, even though I have offered it at every turn. I think I'm in my 5th year.
Right.
As president. Yeah. So I know how to pay an employee now. Huge. Like, I know how to do all of the banking stuff from that. A downside to women's only teams is nobody has a truck to bring the mower to the field for someone to mow. Not a lot of accountants in the mix. Like, we are without certain things that usually men's clubs come by quite easily. If ever we were to open a school, we have enough teachers to float the entire staff.
And school nurses would be abundant as well.
Right. Like, we have all the university students you'd ever need. But no one any skills to fill things like the treasurer or fixtures. So that, I would say, in terms of being an only woman or a president of an all women's club, those are little things that you probably wouldn't think of that are difficult.
Yeah, sure. And what have you learned in terms of liaising with your provincial body and the neighbouring club as well? What's some of your learnings from those experiences?
Yeah, so I think I've been around the rugby field a long time, and it's a benefit to me, especially in the province, because I know all the presidents the clubs. Like we're all of the same age and we're all doing the same stuff. So I have a really great relationship, I would say, with all the presidents in the province. So it's easy to talk to, and they all know me like we know each other in person. We know each other's spouses, and like I would know their children. Like, yeah. So it's kind of a family in that way, which is a benefit. But like, I think sometimes big clubs do forget that we're a small club and we butt heads. Like, for example, we have to rent fields like from the city. So we are at the mercy of the city of St. John for a lot of things. Where clubs that have their own fields, they just sometimes we don't always meet eye to eye. And that can be difficult. Like it can be difficult to remind them like, no, it's just me basically. And 25 girls who want to play rugby. Like, you know, remember that in terms of making decisions. So there's still challenges for sure. And there's still that, I hate to say old boys club, because I actually think it's an old girls club too. Like, I'm coming from both. I actually think there's a lot of like women who need to change their perception of the game. But I think we're a team, because we're so small, we can change really quickly. So we're open to changing things. Like, let's ask our players what game day works best for them. Does it have to be Saturday? Like, why can't it be a different night? Or let's ask them like when training is best, or like what kind of tournaments they want to go to. Do they want to travel? Would they prefer to do more traveling tournaments versus like a club season? Like, I think we're just because we are sort of like free in that way, that we're just open to changing the game.
Sounds like a real hippie outlook in the club, and I'm in. No, you raise a good point there too about game day, especially when you are challenging for fields. I know that some of the clubs in the prairies they play on Wednesday nights, and you know even have their thirds play Wednesday and their firsts and seconds play Saturdays or whatever. And I think we can squeeze a lot more out of the summer that way to get more games.
Yeah, as Eastern Canadians, we have about how many weeks of summer? About not a lot. So it is hard to convince all the high school and university girls to every Saturday donate their body to the game. So
yeah. Cool. All right. Well, on to your role with the provincial U19 team. What is that role in a coaching standpoint, and where did the players come from? How were they selected for that team?
So our U19 Spruce provincial girls team this year, what a weird year, right? So our age bracket changed to incorporate an older year. So it's typically U18. But we're U19 this year, which brings in that first year girls from first year university.
Right.
Which I think that was a brilliant change for a number of reasons. First of all, a lot of our first year university girls don't play on their university team. They might make the team, but they ride the bench. So why not, like, if we're talking about losing girls, that's a perfect opportunity to lose a bunch of girls. A girl who sat on a bench all term may not join again, but if they have like their provincial rugby to look on anyway. So I'm really happy with the age change, at least for this year. But we actually started our alignment camps in April. Right. We were really lucky. New Brunswick is lucky to be able to do sport a bit sooner than Nova Scotia, if I believe. And I'm not sure of other places because they're not my competitors. So I was only kind of had my eye on a few other places. So we started our alignment camps in April, and those were just basic skill camps because we would have been without rugby basically for 2 seasons because the high school was just touch. So that was basic skills. We did 4 sessions of that, and we've kind of been practicing ever since. Our girls are mostly Southern New Brunswick girls because that's where those 3 big clubs are. That's where all those high school coaches are. So a focus for the head coach and head coach Yaku Olivier, is really getting into like Northern New Brunswick because we know there are athletes up there. We just need to bring them into the fold and really grow the program. So that's our focus going into next year and years after that. is expanding our reach. Because if you look at Olivia DeMerchant, she did not come from southern New Brunswick. She was of northern New Brunswick, ish. And what if no one reached out to her? Or what if the guys team didn't let her practice? All of those things. We really need to start offering opportunities for those girls who don't have clubs in their area. So that's kind of the focus.
Cool. And what's the competition format look like this summer?
So we have Atlantics this summer. It's in St. John. So exciting.
Nice.
And I know. Don't have to wrap it all. August 5th to 7th. So the full weekend of in August. And so that's Nova Scotia, PEI, and Newfoundland and us. In the U19 category, we're playing 2 teams from Nova Scotia, 2 U19 and 1 from PEI.
Okay.
So that's our specific category, yeah.
All right, cool. And what's post that? So you play the tournament, then what will happen? You're hoping that those girls then feed into the New Brunswick senior side. Some potentially will go on to some national camps.
You would think that everything aligns like in a sensical way. So our senior women.
I've been around long enough to know it doesn't.
It doesn't. Our senior women actually played this weekend.
Right.
So we have U19 players playing in the senior championship.
Yeah.
This weekend, and then in August, and then our senior women's side is also finished in August. So it's almost like the end of the season. That's it. After Atlantics, those girls finally get a break. Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah. So do you think that will change next summer, or is this is just a format because of the challenges that COVID threw up, or is this kind of looking to progress? And if so, what's the goals for next season?
Typically, it's Atlantics in July.
Mm-hmm.
Then we go away to Ontario.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how the progression would look. Even that isn't really great organization, but you have to work with all the provinces. So it'll likely go back to that. But getting those girls in July, having these girls right now, there's stuff that we're working on together as a team, and we're competing in August. I can't believe, I just can't imagine, and I'm obviously new to the process. This is my first year with the team. I can't imagine us having to compete the 1st of July or even mid-July.
Yeah.
There's just so much growth that can happen from them, because most of them play senior women's as well. So they're getting game all summer long. And it's just the rugby's better. So why not have it a little bit later? But you got to work with everybody.
Yeah. All right. In the intro, I mentioned you've crossed over to the dark side and you are doing some refereeing, something that I've never done and will continue not to do. What have your experiences been from refereeing, and especially in terms of coaching? What do you think you can learn as a referee and apply into your coaching?
So I'm a scrum half, so I was already a referee, basically.
Yeah, of course.
Right?
Of course.
Yeah. So,
prerequisites.
Basically didn't learn anything. It's so different. It's so drastically different being a referee, even to a referee to a coach. It is its own position on the field for sure. I'm so new at it, so new, just still doing exhibition type games. I did a bunch of middle school games when we had them a few years ago. I just refereed on the weekend. I did some sevens games. Most of the time, I'm just reminding myself, Katie, you're not here to watch. And run toward the play, and get in the right and get out of the way. So I'm still at that part of it, but I did the official, the match official through our program, through the St. John Irish program, where we offer free, PD. It's just like teaching. You don't know until you're in the classroom. Once you're on that field and you're in charge, wow, are things different? So drastically different. Basically, I just play advantage the entire game.
I like it.
It's a rolling game when I'm the referee. That's for sure. Yeah, I'm just like praying to God I never have to give a red card. Like I would not know what to do likely, but I mean, I'm set. It's something I want to retire into. Like I want to be part of like the physical aspect of the sport.
Yeah.
Forever. So it's mostly just my fitness plan. That's it.
Yeah. Cool. And what about sideline? Do you hear coaches on the sideline? Do you hear players on the field? What's some feedback for coaches and captains in that area?
Yeah. I don't get it as I don't hear it as myself because the games that I've done, like nobody actually cares about the outcomes. Typically, they're just for fun or jamboree.
Yeah.
Right. But now as someone who wants to be in that position, and I do hear the chirping from the sidelines and like the undertone of like what coaches say. Yeah, it's so disheartening. Oh my goodness. The turnover for like female referees in New Brunswick is drastic. Like we've had them and gone. So I feel like there is a wind of change for sure to be more respectful. And as an audience member, like you don't have to call out that the referee was too slow to get to a ruck, so didn't see something or whatever terrible things said on the sideline. It doesn't totally scare me though. I like it's the same people that've been chirping everyone their entire career in rugby, right? Luckily, I've been at the pitch long enough to be able to be like, "Hey, Troy, be quiet."
Shout out to Troy.
Yeah. I know that you'll take that, with a grain of salt, so it's all right.
All right, no, it's fine. All right, well, we always end the show with the same final 4 questions. When you were a kid growing up, or even when you first got into rugby, who was a player that really stood out to you? And if it's not a rugby player, who's an athlete that really stood out to you when you were a kid?
So my answers to all these questions are so unorthodox.
That's good. That's how we roll. Let's do it.
Yeah, okay, good. So obviously I didn't watch rugby, and I can barely watch rugby now because it's hard to get.
It's crazy, eh?
Yeah, but my favorite
podcast.
Yeah, exactly. My favorite athletes were Hayley Wickenheiser and Laurie King. Oh yeah. Canadian girls. Yeah. And I thought about it when you asked me that question. I actually sat with these questions for quite a while, and I thought it's because I can see myself. Like I played hockey, not well, but I played hockey and I played lots and lots of golf. So when I saw these girls and like Laurie Kane's from PEI, like you're my neighbor, basically, Laurie Kane. Like I was just like, oh, that's me. I could be that person. And it was when I thought about it the other day, I was like, that's why it's so important for us to show like the trajectory of how you can be an athlete.
Yeah. So it's themselves. Yeah, 100%. We've got a book on Wickenheiser. It's a popular bedtime read for both my daughters, and just about the Canadian Olympics and her being captain and winning gold and that. So and
she didn't retire until she was much older, which is like.
Is she a doctor now too, which is just crazy as well. Like one of those overachievers that are just like, please stop.
That's a girl.
Yeah. All right. What about now? Who are some of the players you like watching?
Okay, so this answer, I also answered like a typical answer, and I want to explain it. So I did say Bowden Barrett, but that is for a different reason.
Okay.
I think the Barrett family is one of the most interesting families on the face of the earth, and I talk about it all the time. I cannot imagine having all of those kids at professional, high level athletics.
Yeah.
Basically, as a teacher, I'm just so intrigued by like their upbringing. And that is why they are my favorite because they also said their mother would drop them off the top of the hill and they'd have to run barefoot home. And like, who doesn't dream of having a whole rugby crew? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I know you want to, Andy,
Yeah, totally.
Like, you want those girls to go all the way through, right? Like that's just so cool.
Yeah, of course.
Anyway, so they're kind of, I do follow them because I just find them fascinating.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah, it is very interesting, and it's got a real New Zealand flavour to it as well. Growing up on a farm and the dream of being an All Black and those kind of things.
And who does? I mean, I'm from New Brunswick. You know what I mean? Like that's the dream. Like you grew up on a farm and you became a professional athlete. Like you can't be cooler than that, honestly.
Yeah. Cool. All right. And third question, what about coaches? Who are some of the coaches who are probably, high profile that you like what they're doing?
Mm-hmm. I don't follow a lot, to be honest. I did fall in love with Colette McCauley.
Yeah.
At the I wrote it down, the East Coast Conference coaching.
Right.
Conference.
Yeah.
That was 2019. I just saw her coach for like a moment in time, but loved her approach, loved like her energy, and I would say we're very similar in that way. Just more of a, nope, this is what we're doing. Nope, we're doing that. It wasn't totally the most girly approach. She was just very much like, this is how it is. She was like a boss babe, and I was all for that. I really like the energy. So she's probably someone that I've been following since. Big fan. But I just like coaches who ask great questions. Like I love coaches who, when I watch them with their players, they really can pull information from their players really well. I find that like a fascinating skill that I really want to get great at. I mean, Jack Hanratty's excellent at that. He's someone that I did my level 2 with, that he even asked me questions and I was like, oh my God, why didn't I think of that? Like, yeah. So he made a lot of like connections as a coach for me, like between teaching and coaching. I feel like when he said to me during the level 2, like, Katie, it's just like teaching. And it was that moment that I was like, it's just, of course it's just like teaching.
Yeah.
And that has drastically changed my approach to coaching for sure.
Yeah. Cool. No, it's a good point. And, knowing Jack, he's really good at asking questions because he's really good at talking. So that's definitely a strong point. All right. Wrap it up now with the final question. Who's someone in the grassroots in your area that you feel deserves recognition and a shout out?
Our head coach, of course, Becky Knox. I mean, if you're talking about compassion and empathy in coaching, she nails it. I actually, we coached together for the high school, my high school team, thank God, because she has the empathy part down. And as much as I would love to say that I'm that person, I'm just not. Like she's the mom and I'm the dad, for lack of a better explanation. Yeah. But she's phenomenal. Like she understands the sport and she understands people really well. And she can navigate that whole, like, again, going back to that fear of being in a contact sport or trying something new or something totally outside of your comfort zone. She's perfect for that. She has that cornered. She's someone that I think people are going to lean on more and more for advice and how to approach women in sport in general. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. And like any coaching relationship, you need a good cop and a bad cop. So good work there. All right, Katie, it's been great having you on the show. It's been, watching from afar the progression, meeting you in St. John and seeing what's happening with your rugby club. It's a really unique situation. I think there's some great examples for other people who are involved in women's rugby, whether it be coaching or administrating. And I think it's exciting times and I can't wait to see where it goes and want to thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to the Rugby Coaches Corner podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please leave a review via iTunes and keep listening for the next episode. You can also follow us via Twitter at RugbyCoachesCNR or via the website therugbycoachescorner.com. Until next time, keep sharing ideas to make the game better.